goal isn't to live forever. The goal is to create something that will.
Welcome to Perspective, a podcast for wedding creators. We sit down, often with a special guest, and talk about our many years of experience in the wedding industry so you can learn from us and grow your wedding business. And who are we? Well, I'm Simon, and this is the yin to my yang. Together, we are Cinemate Films, two Scottish-based wedding filmmakers. I turned into Sean Connery there, who love nothing more than drinking coffee and talking shop with others in the wedding industry. And we've teamed up with Photography Farm to bring you 6 special episodes of this podcast in anticipation of Thrive 2024, an all-star wedding photography workshop taught by 6 phenomenal mentors. This episode is, of course, sponsored by With Jack, but I will get on to that a little bit later in the show. Greg, which one of these 6 phenomenal mentors are we talking to this morning?
We are welcoming back previous guest, Melody Joy. Hello, Melody.
Hello, Melody.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Hello. I'm good. Just slowly waking up with my coffee.
Yes, as we all are.
Yes.
So this is actually the last of our Thrive episodes to record, Melody. So thank you for finishing off this little block of recording. I think it's going to be a good conversation.
Yeah. So what I said, we're welcoming you back. We spoke to you back in 2019, early 2019, as we just checked. What have you been up to since then?
I mean, I feel like business is like literally just been the same, just more shifted to the UK. So like since then I've gotten married. My husband's Scottish. So like I moved here, became a legal resident. I pay taxes here now. It's all of the things are like more UK business based than Chicago. But I still I actually go to Chicago on Thursday for the weekend for a wedding. So I still go back a good bit, but yeah. I'm based here in the UK now, in Scotland.
Yeah, and you're Edinburgh. You're still Edinburgh, right?
In Edinburgh, yeah. Actually, my husband and I just bought a flat a couple months ago that we've been slowly renovating. But thanks, yeah, we're just in the center of Edinburgh and Stockbridge, and yeah, we love it.
Lovely.
Yeah. I was actually just through in Edinburgh. In fact, speaking of coffee, I went to visit my uncle because we had an iPad emergency for my daughter, and my daughter had a sleepover, so I had to go and try and fix her iPad, and my uncle had a spare one. Anyway, he gave us this coffee, which I've left the bag over there, but it's from Pure Roasters, and it's called Patter Watter. So, that. Very Scottish name. I think I brewed it too strong, but yeah.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's all right, though.
But how's Ross doing these days? What's he up to?
He's good. Yeah, he's been with actually the same tech company he's been at since I met him. He does e-learning, and he's just in his office. He works mainly from home now. Ever since COVID, nobody really goes to their offices because everything's online. But yeah, he's doing well. He's just slowly doing more and more film, less and less posting, just living life off the grid.
The dream.
It's like rubbing off on me because like now I post like once every couple months.
Yeah.
How do you find that in terms of like your the time that it takes to make a post every day is quite substantial, and sometimes I think, is it worth the return on investment for my time? How have you find just posting once every month? Like, are you still getting the same amount of return for that little amount invested, or?
I am only, but for me, because I'm doing stories every day, so like posting a coffee or like tagging a cinnamon bun place and that kind of stuff. And when those local people share, then all those people who are interested in those coffees and those cinnamon buns or my workout spot, like those type of people then tend to, they see somebody in their community. And then I've gotten a lot of like brides reaching out just more through stories, which is actually something I'm trying to target more local so we can start a family, so it's like I think that's been helpful. And then I also, again, still really heavy on SEO and Pinterest. So most of my inquiries actually still come from SEO and Pinterest weekly versus Instagram. So Instagram's more of like a portfolio. So I think people still find me on there, but more of when I'm interacting maybe with other people.
Yeah.
Or when brides post the work. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. The shift. I wonder if that's going to be the thing this year. Maybe it has been with TikTok and that style of content coming out. But I wonder if we're going to see more of that in 2024, which is now the year it is. Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Are you the last? So obviously we mentioned that you're back. The last episode you were on was episode 21, and now we're past the 100 mark. So what have you learned from all those many years ago to now? Like, how's your journey been?
I feel like I'm a lot better at relaxing now. I mean, I still am I'm still very, very focused. Like I'm still very like business focused. But I feel like I do it more like low key now, I think, than like so in your face, I think. Yeah, I would say, I mean, but I feel like I still listen to like digital marketing podcasts and I still listen to like that kind of like I just enjoy learning about that kind of stuff. So I still listen to like the latest things Google's looking for, like their spider crawls on SEO and stuff. So it's like I do just enjoy that in like the background or like inspirational, like, photographers. Yeah. I mean, I'm just like, I'm like a very specific thing. I've learned how to give more luminance on people's faces, specifically on Lightroom.
Right.
Well, funny you should say this, and obviously we're filmmakers, so we're not on Lightroom a lot, but the AI power of Lightroom now to be like, where's the subject? Oh, this is your subject. This is their face. This is their lips. This is their eyes. This is like it's crazy how easy it was for me to just go, I want this done, bibbidi blop, and it was done more or less. Which is
editing on a plane or in a car is easier now with the selecting.
Yeah. How long has it been like that? I feel like I'm an old man here.
I think it's only half a year
just
or so.
In the last year, I feel like.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's pretty new-ish.
But no more tedious having to like properly paint in somebody's face. And, I'll need to erase that bit. Oh,
yeah. But do you ever think that? And maybe this is me thinking too deeply into AI learning. But you're like, you've created an image, and you're like, this is a nice image. And then you realize that it's probably been able to go, oh, this is this part of the image, this is this part of the image, because it's learned from so many of the same images taken by so many different people in the past that it kind of just takes the wind out of you a little bit. No? Just me?
I get what you're saying, but I've not felt that myself.
Okay.
But I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm getting too deep. Who knows? You can't prove to me we're not in a simulation. So, we're talking about relaxing. Are you still a gamer? I remember that being a thing.
Yeah. So we just asked our buddy Kyle in Chicago, like we just had him give us a bunch of couch co-op games to download.
Okay.
We haven't tested them out yet, but we have a couple like ready. He had sent a list over, but yeah, no, we still have our little Xbox set up over here. It's one of the first things we wanted to get going. But honestly, we haven't played in the last, because we just bought the house in the last couple months. So we've been living in between my in-laws that are in Bridge of Allen and here. And so we've been going back and forth while the place, they just like stripped the carpets and sanded the floors and painted. So it's like, we've just been like living out of suitcases, and we're actually still in suitcases, and we have like a buddy staying here with us in the guest room. And so it's our life's been all over the place right now on the personal side. So I feel like sadly I've not had as much time to play Xbox, but I do love it. And if anybody likes to play Halo 3, we're down.
Halo 3, okay.
Specifically.
Well, if you want to make new friends, you can give Greg your gamer tag, and he can put it in the show notes if you want to have like photography buddies find you.
I'm not good. I just enjoy playing.
Yeah, I feel like I mean, I'm 38. Am I 38? Am I 37? I can't remember. Anyway, I'm near there, and I'm not very good nowadays. I like Call of Duty first person shooters, pew pew pew. But these young kids, they've got the reflexes. Oh my goodness! I can't do it anymore. Anyway, sorry.
Back to photography. So for those that maybe haven't listened to the previous episode or maybe don't know much about your background, tell us a bit about how you got into weddings and elopements way back at the start.
Yeah, let's see if it'll be somewhat similar from my recollection. But yeah, basically it's like in I feel like it was never anything like glamorous of like falling into it in like a magical or romantic way. It was a very much like, I enjoy taking photos. I'm about to be 34 this year as well. So pretty much everyone of a certain age, you grew up with just, point and shoots, your parents' film cameras. So taking those to university, I was like the school photographer for my Christian university that I went to in Florida. I was smaller, so it was easier to be like a big fish in a small pond type of thing. So I was able to use their DSLRs, got really into them, really loved it. Graduated with a business degree, moved to the middle Georgia. My partner at the time was, he did wedding films. So did a lot of like just second shooting with films and stuff. And then when you're in the South, a lot of your best friends get married really young. So I had a lot of practice with like couples at a very young age. And so, yeah, like it was just, it kind of was like one of these things that I enjoyed doing photos more than like any other type of business thing. And then was just had so many at a young age, just doing so many couples and like weddings that, yeah, just kind of over time, it was just like something that I was like, oh no, this is what I want to do versus like a 9 to 5. I actually only had a 9 to 5 for 9 months out of university back in 2012. And literally I've been working for myself since 2013. I don't know what that says about me, but I was like, I don't like having anybody telling me what to do. So I haven't had that since 2013. So yeah. And it's 2024 and I'll be 34 this year. But yeah, so yeah, I just really enjoy photography. It was something that was always like a hobby. Like I was always like the person in high school that had all the albums, the person in university I worked at a church camp and I was like the photographer that had all the photos of every week. And so, yeah, I just, weddings is just, wasn't as romantic, but.
Yeah. Obviously we'll get on to you telling us about your style a little bit later, but I'm wondering, obviously, your journey's it's been going for a few years, like you said, and I know you've got interest in things like, well, a little birdie told me that you like Korean dramas. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So do you take
Watch
any
them every
like
night.
What every night? Okay,
every night. Well, it's nice because my husband likes to read and I like to read subtitles. So we do that together.
Okay. Well, any in particular that you'd recommend for our listeners?
Right now I'm watching My Demon, which has one of the most beautiful intros. But no, I feel like there's quite a few that are, I mean, I actually feel like a lot of Korean dramas, like I actually sometimes am like, I really want to find, there actually has been a few directors that I've looked at. I don't know their names because they're all in Korean, but like I've like looked in the credits to find them on Instagram because like their visuals are just so beautiful, probably even more so for film, but it's all like the wide landscapes and how they shoot is like very cinematic. So I do like love like visually. I mean, I love the cheesy storylines. That's like the main reason I watch it, but visually, I will say that it probably does subconsciously like affect how I shoot things. They do a lot of foreground interest, a lot of slow motion, a lot of it's a lot of moodiness at night. So like right now I'm watching Destined with You and My Demon. Those are the two that I'm watching back to back or kind of go back and forth between each episodes.
Destined with You, is that
Destined?
That the other one, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was going to ask if you felt that the influences make their way through, like you said, subconsciously they maybe do, but are you the sort of person that does watch things with a analytical eye and are you looking at lighting, or are you able to switch off and just enjoy that sort of thing.
When it's Korean dramas, yes, I am like very because I have to read the subtitles, and I don't like turning on the English. It's weird. So like I that's why I only watched it at night when I'm like done with work. I give myself a break. It's actually, I call it like my reward for like editing X amount of hours. Then I can like turn off and like watch like a Korean drama. But in the background while I'm editing, it's what you were talking about thinking deep about AI and Lightroom and editing and stuff. I'm not a deep thinker when I'm editing. I usually have reality TV on in the background, usually Housewives of some sort, just going. And I'm just like fully focused on the photos, but I'm just listening to the craziness. And I feel like that type of watching I do more, but it's more of like, I'm just listening. I'm not actually like, because there's nothing like cinematic happening in those programs. So yeah, I feel like but for Korean dramas, like they're very beautiful. And then sometimes in the evenings, like my husband and I will watch we just started that, I don't know, it just popped up on Netflix last night, but I thought there's like some scenes that have been really beautifully done. Something about Fool You. I don't know. I forgot the name of it, but it's,
sorry, did you say Follow You? Something about
maybe. Yes, it's like something that just popped up on Netflix, and it's like a British like crime, like whodunit type of series. But we started the first 2 episodes, and it actually is like they've got some nice scenes going on. All right. But I mean, nothing to like write home about. But it's I feel like those type of things that I'm like I actually sit and watch. So yeah.
Yeah, I want to know what other people edit to. Some people can edit to stuff. I'm one of them. I can have the TV going. Sometimes I'll listen to podcasts. Quite often I'm listening to philosophical conversations. Oh, now I'm realizing why I get so deep in things sometimes. What does God exist? Who knows? What do you edit to? Although you don't really edit.
When I'm editing the films, it's normally sermon speeches, which has audio that I'm having to work on, so I can't really put anything on.
That's true.
But if I'm doing any other work, it's usually just music, because I can just listen to that as noise and not focus on the lyrics. Whereas if I'm watching a TV show, I feel like I'm not focusing on what's happening. Yeah. Because I'm reading words and typing words. My brain can't do that. Can't multitask.
All right. If you're watching this YouTube video, or if you're listening to the podcast, find somewhere to write to us and just say what you edit to, because I really want to know. Especially if it's something really weird. Anyway.
Yeah. I was just going to say, like at home, I always edit to some type of like TV thing in the background, emails, music. And then on planes, it's always podcasts, because you can't really do much like streaming. So I always am like downloading podcasts and listening to podcasts when I'm editing. And usually it's Jai Long.
Oh, Jai Long. Oh, yes. Yeah. We've had Jai Long on the podcast. Have you listened to that episode? It was quite a good one.
I actually don't know if I have.
Get yourself on that, Melody. Get yourself on that. It's a good episode.
Speaking of planes, you've obviously spent a lot of time splitting your workload between Chicago and the UK, and you've mainly transitioned, I believe, to mostly UK weddings now. So how did that transition go? What do you think has been the key to achieving that move, like, and keeping the level of business going?
A lot of like very focused, targeted marketing, I feel like, in different ways. Like it could be through networking. Like a lot of it is SEO, I feel like, based for myself. That's like a lot of what I did. But I mean, again, I was talking about doing that in 2019 before my husband and I were even engaged. And then we got engaged at the end of 2019, got married in 2020. But we had already, obviously, we're talking about, were you going to move to Chicago? Am I going to move here? Because we, as a relationship, long distance over the ocean, you're deciding already in advance, like where you're going to live. We had already decided that I would eventually come here. So many years ago, I was like already changing all of my SEO, my website, and all the back end of my like every page. And yeah, so I feel it is kind of like a long game, but I actually feel like now I do get more consistent UK like inquiries like every day. So it is like, I do feel like, but it's taken like a long time. It's taken a couple of years, but I feel like it's very consistent now with the inquiries. But yeah, a lot of Pinterest and SEO focused on cities like Edinburgh. I've randomly had a lot of Bristol, like around Bristol weddings last year.
All right.
Which I
really
really like that
interesting.
area.
Yeah. Did you target that for SEO or
I
did you
targeted
just
London.
Random. Okay.
And I think it was people that saw me in London that maybe their families were from there and they had eventually moved to London. So they looked for me because of some London keyword, but then they got married back in their family's home in Gloucestershire. I can't pronounce those
Gloucestershire. Yes.
Yeah.
Gloucestershire. So different kind of areas around there. So we'd like fly in and then like drive to like Bath or drive to, I don't know, wherever the Somerset Hauser and Worth is down there. But yeah, I feel like it's all like London-y people that maybe like they found me because I had keyword like did the keyword London or just a couple specific things around there, like neighborhoods in London that I like that maybe those couples would live in that are my vibe. And then, but then they would actually go get married in some country home in the middle, like where their family's from.
Yeah. How do you feel that kind of, I don't want to say nomadic lifestyle, but like there's been a lot of moving around and you've been in Chicago and Edinburgh and you travel around quite a lot. How do you think that has affected your style?
I don't think it's affected it too much. If anything, I feel like I've become less like, I feel like there was a chunk of season where I was doing all mood, but I was actually doing more of like moody colors as well. So even for colors, it was like more of darker colors. Whereas actually now I feel like I tend to be driven to probably more like a little bit lighter actually when it comes to color, even though black and white's still my favorite. And like I obviously I just like post black and white mainly now, but whenever I do color, it actually is not as like dark as what it once was, if that makes sense. So, and I don't know if that has anything to do with traveling or maybe it's just like the amount of fashion magazines that I've collected and just more of like the fashion side, which does tend to be more flash based naturally. Like just moving that into like weddings and, somehow. And then there's, I think, I have had a lot of brides actually that are either in the fashion world, and they want that very like, it kind of works out because they want that vibe where it is just more of like whatever the color is. And so it's been an interesting one. So yes, I would say less moody. I'm very long-winded. You gotta wrap me up. That's
fine. You and me are both we're both in the same boat. I'm very long-winded. Greg's just listening to us going, fuck's sake.
It's like, so next question. I'm not
Greg, you continue. Go on.
I was just thinking, like, you've mentioned that SEO has been a big part of how you've moved your business and how you sort of get bookings. And I've got a feeling that's maybe what a lot of the Thrive Talk might focus on. So won't go into it too much, but can you give us like one sort of practical tip that works for you in SEO? Like what, because a lot of people find that as a bit of a dark art and they're sitting going, I've heard the word, but I don't know what SEO means or how to use it. So like give us one practical tip that people could maybe take away.
Yeah. For Google, like when their spiders crawl or whatever, however they call it, and they're scanning your website, it's not just like a keyword title or just like, some people think like 10, 15 of the same keyword of the venue. Like let's say if you want to like really target like a specific venue you want to do more work at. Very practical things. again, I say most people know this, but maybe somebody just starting out doesn't know this. But in your URL, just do the venue name with dashes in between each word and don't do extras. And then take out the date and the fluff that maybe your website will naturally give to that beforehand. So let it just be like the minimal, your URL, and then the username. Because the more fluff you add, like cities, your name, your business name, all that stuff, that actually distracts from Google thinking you're focused on that specific topic. And then throughout, you don't have to keyword stuff, but there's like different types of headings. And I work with Squarespace, so it's very easy. It's like header 1, 2, 3, 4, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4. As long as you have that in every single item somewhere on your blog post, as well as phrases that coincide with that, that establish you know what you're talking about, as well as on the back end, each image needs to have in the alt text as well as the file name, which you can change if you use Squarespace. It's very easy to change that file name in alt text on each image. But again, with the dashes, with the venue name. And anytime I've done that for any particular venue, I mean, I'm pretty much like towards the top of Google Images. And a lot of people for those particular venues I've done that for have said that they've found me on Google Images because I'm like in one of those top lines. So I feel like those are some like practical things that, if you're trying to target a specific venue, that's been helpful for me specifically. Like, and usually it's like when I shoot at that venue, then I go hard on blocking it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I said one tip. You gave about 10 there.
I
That
know.
was brilliant.
Jeez. There was one thing.
Well, that's just a blog post.
There was one thing, and really, PickTime should be doing your blog post for you, eh, Greg?
They can do, yeah.
One thing I remember when I was just starting to get to grips with the websites is the fact that Google, like when you make changes to your metadata or the back end of your website, you make changes. Back in the early days, when I was a little boy, I used to make the changes and then go to Google and see if those changes had any effect. But just in case you don't know, and this is really, really, really beginner stuff, Google only like scans your website I actually thought it was every few weeks, but I just had to double check. Obviously, that was a good few years ago. It's a couple of times every few days. Every few days. That's so quick. That's so often.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
And
so don't expect changes immediately is what I'm kind of getting at.
Yeah, you could also request them on Google search to reindex your website straight away. If you really wanted to, if you're too anxious for waiting a couple days.
Oh, my teen self is so jealous of all you newbies getting into the wedding industry. Back in my day, everything was black and white, kids. Anyway, before we
I would
talk
love
about
if
your
everything
work,
was in black and white.
Just filters for your eyes.
My house, like there's a book back here that I was like, oh, I didn't like that color. I like moved it out of the frame.
Fair enough. I mean, do you do that with some of your images? You're like, oh, that blue is well too blue, and you just click and drag that color, and you take the blue right out of it.
For example, specifically people like walking on the streets, like around, like I just posted some, like somebody walking around in Paris. If somebody has like a coat on in the background with some funky color, I just like hover over that person, either delete the person or change the color to black or just like a, monochromatic tone. Just take out the color.
I get you. Before we talk about your work and more about your business, I want to know, and I don't think I asked you this on the first podcast, but what is your deep why for doing this work?
People have asked me this before. I feel like maybe sometimes I feel like it's less about the craft and it's more of just, I enjoy creating like visuals, and I've fallen into this, and I love that because I did commercial photography more than before I did couple photography, whereas more emotion based. Whereas with commercial photography, I was doing like photos for like dentist websites and for people's like websites because I did web and graphic design before I did photography. And so just just the emotion that it captured. I feel like that's why I chose it. So I feel like maybe, again, this is the long-windedness. Maybe I just can't get my thoughts together, and I do have a why. I just don't know exactly how to phrase it. But the two things of like wanting to work for myself is like something that was very important to me. Just like with all of my circumstances in life and my upbringing, which is probably on the deeper side, but it's like there's that. And then I've found that I just really enjoy capturing emotion versus just like commercial stuff, which for me is like, I really value when somebody has something that they can like show their grandkids or like have forever. Yeah. So it's like and then I've just chosen this thing. So over here, like the two things I could think of right off the bat, because I haven't really, I guess, thought that much about how to phrase it, is that like the freedom of just having that like for me, that was very important for me to have that financial freedom, and to just not even the financial freedom, but the time freedom. Like I feel like I have the time to do whatever I want, and I don't know, maybe I need to go to therapy, but I feel like I'm very much like, I want to do what I want. I don't want anyone to tell me anything. So there's that. And then also like, I would rather photograph people who it's like more meaningful to them and they'll have it forever versus just like, you know, like a coffee shop, as much as I love coffee and photographing it on my phone.
Yeah. I mean, hey, people should definitely consider going to therapy, even if there's nothing wrong with them. I'm just saying that right now because being able to process things in your brain, it's a very helpful tool. I've never asked you your deep why, Greg.
Putting me in the spot now. It's not that deep, but it's, Melody touched on it. It's the whole having stuff for future generations to see. Like, I love the fact that we're capturing memories for people that in 50 years, someone's going to find in a cupboard or hard drive nowadays and be like, oh, that's what great gran looked like when she was young and got married.
Yeah.
Like I love that fact of part of our job. And that's why I do it, I guess.
Yeah. I'm starting to question my why. I'm starting to think, well, maybe everything that we do in life is really just a method of distraction to take us away from the idea that we're all going to die eventually, you know? And so maybe the appeal isn't that you're creating these memories. It's that these memories will outlast us. And so we are essentially, in some degree, able to live longer, outlive our bodies. You know what I mean? Anyway.
I was listening back to Brooke's episode recently because I was doing the show notes for it.
Oh, yeah.
And she said something about we're all sharing like the same experience. We're all born and we're all now slowly dying.
Yep.
I was like, shit, you're true. You're right. But Jesus.
Well, and I think that's kind of...
Sorry, go for it.
Oh, no. I was just... it just made me think of like, when earlier you're like, what you've learned in the last, couple of years since we've last talked to you. It's like, I feel like I've learned to just more relax a bit more, where it's like my marketing stuff's still the same, blah, blah, blah. But I do think maybe with age, like it's just, and I mean, not that it, I feel like as I've gotten older, because I still knowingly so take myself very seriously, and I'm slowly trying to take myself less seriously, and I feel like I have slowly as I've gotten older, and hopefully that just continues. But I feel like I've been able to relax more as I've gotten older as well, or just I don't know. I think in the sense of like going towards death vibes. It's like
I think even just having the awareness that you take yourself too serious is good, that you're aware of that, so you maybe need to work on it. Like that's got to be a good thing, surely.
Yeah, I think all the Scottish people definitely have helped with my seriousness, or like with taking it down.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the industry for a little bit. Like, is there any current trends in the wedding photography scene that has caught your eye, and are you trying to sort of filter them into your work at all? Like what's sort of catching your eye just now in the wedding industry?
I mean, everyone's always done like, this is probably a classic, like flash for like in the evenings and the reception and dance and stuff. But I've been, because again, like I do just as a personal hobby, I just enjoy reading fashion magazines and looking at really unique, odd types of photography, more in like the fashion world. That's really abstract and maybe a bit too like weird or grotesque for like a wedding day. But the flash during the day, I've been really liking. So like actually like on the street using flash in daylight. And so using it, just bouncing different ways. So actually less in the evening, but more of like figuring out how to use it for during the day as well. It's been kind of fun, I would say.
Is are you using that in a way to kind of get a sense of more like, I mean, I don't want to say there's I mean, there is an effect. There's like street photography and fashion and editorial work, and there is that.
Thanks for filling my cup right to the top, Simon.
Don't put it over the laptop.
Not over the laptop. Yeah, sorry. I'm just messing around today. I'm not being serious. God. It's fine. We're all gonna die eventually. Yeah. So there's a correlation between like street photography, which is kind of like almost touristic in the way that it approaches like we're talking about like street photography coming from a world of like film, like 35mm film, almost like disposable type direct flash, like that kind of vibe? Or are you more going for that kind of like using it for like an artistic nice composition with fill for the shadows? Like, are you using it in kind of like a
more
street
for direct
type
flash? Yeah,
Okay.
I would say more direct flashes and like, and I think there's something that changes in the attitude of what I've noticed of my couples. Like when you're walking in daylight and it's just like flash, 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 like paparazzi style in front of you. I feel like their attitudes change, and then they're like, like they're on a runway, and it just like creates this like fun atmosphere that's just more like lighthearted. And I think that's what I mean. Whereas like I feel like in the past I've been like very like be very stoic and like very and like the tears and the heart. And honestly, there's literally nothing wrong with that. But I actually feel like my couples, just as what I post and then what people see and then they inquire, I've realized that my couples that are inquiring towards me, from what I'm posting maybe in styled stuff, we're more aligned in the sense of like, I'm maybe not as like emotional of a person. Well, I mean, I do cry at movies all the time, but like as in like, like I feel like I've become, it's like emotional in the sense of this is a memory for your day, but not emotional in the crying way on a wedding day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, that's great. I've really been enjoying talking to some photographers that we have been talking to last year, and just the idea of like exploring all the emotions that you forget about. Like everyone always like for a while, it was very, very popular to see couples really close to each other and like almost like you couldn't breathe just looking at this image, you know, like they were so close and there was so much passion. And I love those images, but it's quite nice to see other people's capturing of a wedding day, seeing the carnage of a wedding, or seeing other things that just aren't deep, you know? Like people enjoying themselves, having fun. Get a little bit of sexiness in some images. Get some wild things going on. I think it's a little bit more genuine.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. There's zero wrong because I think it all just depends on like, I think that's why probably couples that are interested in those things choose the photographers that match what they want the vibe of their wedding day to be captured like, and or like the certain emotions that they want to focus on. Whereas like for myself, I do tend to like, I feel like I have been attracting the more like sassy brides that are more like into their fashion, but they like their husband also is into that and like loves to like stroll around and like, so it's been, so that's been kind of more, I feel like my vibe, or the couples that are more maybe into fashion or just like having fun. They're just more of like, they just want to have a party and like have a lot of fun on their wedding day.
Yeah. Just before I do a little bit of self-promotion here, Melody, it must be nice because you've always kind of had that editorial type, cool magazine type feel to your work. It must be nice to have that. I mean, it wasn't exactly. I mean, it's always been kind of there, but it just seems to be right now at the forefront of what people are doing now. Kind of editorial, direct flash. It must be nice to have your work become,
or maybe it's not
trendy.
Maybe it's annoying that everybody's trying to do something similar now.
Well, okay then. What's your opinion on your style becoming trendy?
No, I love it though, because it feels like I get way more inquiries now, and I don't know if that's the SEO or just that like now people want more of like, you know, and it could just be again the years of doing this, but like it does feel like a lot more people resonate with my work than they did a couple years ago, and so it could be a mix of the subtle changes that I've done, or it's just that more and more people want that vibe now. So it's, I guess, a win-win for me.
Yeah. Okay. Well caught, Greg. I was already putting a spin on that. I shouldn't have done. I'm a bad person. Hey, listener, if you like this conversation, you should listen to our other episodes. And if you haven't listened to that, if you have listened to our other episodes, there are words I'm trying to say here, and it's very hard because I'm now on my second cup of coffee. But you should hit that subscribe button and keep listening. There are reasons to listen. This is why we have guests on. Anyway, youtube.com/@Perspective by Cinemate. You can support us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you've got Spotify, you can watch the video. Just play the podcast. It's great. Get to see our faces. Anyway, sorry about that. Melody, back to you. So obviously I mentioned your style. Do you want to talk us through about what your style is?
Yeah. I would classify it in adjectives, maybe as like, again, I'm not a writer. Some things are. I really am not like, I feel like I'm not very good at describing things with words. So I will give you some very basic ones, like edgy, modern, like monochromatic. Like it feels, nobody comes to me for writing. So like even about my own work, I'm not like a person to be like necessarily describing it. But I feel like the feeling, I can maybe describe the feeling. I want the couples to feel like empowered. I want them to feel like sassy, like they can take over the world, like they can do anything they want, not just on their wedding day, but in life. So yeah, those are the kind of feelings that I want my couples to feel when they see the images that I take of them. Feel very confident and like the way they look and feel, more than like, yeah, I feel like that is probably easier to describe for me.
Yeah, I get that. When I look at your work, I find there's a nice balance between those kind of shots and what I would probably describe as like quite still shots, and maybe that comes in your control of the image's palette, or that you like clean, kind of crisp. Almost architectural in your approach to wedding photography.
I do like minimal. I don't like clutter.
Yeah,
minimalist.
Minimalist, yes, that is a good word. How do you balance? Because I mean, our Ian Weldon podcast just went out, and his work is very like capture the carnage essentially of a wedding. How do you balance the kind of messiness of a wedding and still be able to get that kind of minimalist vibe? Are there any like tricks that you go to or you lean on, or are you just posting the really clean brides?
I would say at most weddings, whenever I'm shooting like a really anybody, I do try to do it where there's like very minimal happening in the background or so much depth that they're the focus. So there is still ways to like even like carnage at a wedding day. Like I usually always take like photos of like the table at the end of a night, kind of a vibe. But even in that, you can still make it minimal. Like if the table's here and then it's all black here and all black here, but then maybe you see some like lights of the top of the building, I would get rid of those. So it'd literally just be like this little skinny table in the middle of this very so like the composition is minimal. So you could still have craziness captured with a very minimal composition. Somebody's actually, one of the stylists at Thrive, this is a good example. She was asking, I was also like still trying to like come up to my thoughts of like the style of a dress. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I want everything to be like minimalist, and instantly kind of thought of like slip dresses. That's like minimal. But actually I'm happy with like maximalist dresses and like I love epic veils, but it'll be more of my compositions will be very minimal on those. So it's like so if that makes sense. So it's like I love all the craziness, but my composition will be minimal of that craziness. Like I'll be framing it in a way where it's very focused on the subject, or it's like, like the line. I love lines.
And does that all come to composition, or are you taking away distracting elements in post?
Probably both.
Or is that a bit of a balance? Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, I think I do both.
Okay.
Yeah, I take things out a lot, and I also like, I think with Flash, I think that helps in the evening to be able to like knock things out pretty easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because you're essentially just exposing to your subject, and then the background just kind of like falls into darkness.
Black. Yeah.
What we've spoken a little bit about this already, but in terms of like, other than your Korean dramas, what other influences do you have for your work, or is it just you're using your natural sense of the perception of your world? There's a deeper question in here that I'm trying to avoid. Influences, Melody. Where do you get them, if you get them at all?
Yeah, I do feel like I am very like on the deeper side. In this answer will be on the deeper side. That I like to keep everything on the. I think because my minimal life is like what I think grown to as I've gotten older. I feel like just having everything be more focused, more minimal, and more like each image is like focused on something. But I feel like that's kind of how like my life has been as I've gotten older, just more focused, but also in just practical things like Gordon Parks, or there's like a couple other like, do you know Haaretz? Like the, anyways, it's just like there's just like a couple people that have very good minimal images, but it's not even necessarily their tones either. So it's just like some other photographers, one does landscapes, the other one does like street photography, or did. And yeah, so I kind of feel like in the sense of like, if you're looking for like names of photographers, there are ones that have inspired me, and I've probably found them because my husband and I spend a lot of time at like libraries and books and stuff. So like I'm always flipping through them, and I've collected so many photo books, and now even people who have passed, they now have like memorials, and they have, art installations and people sharing their work online. And so there is like those type of things. But I will say in the deeper sense, yes, the like, this coffee cup, for example, how minimal it is. I don't like a lot of like busyness. I like the most like minimal thing. And I feel like that is like how my life is. Like my outfits, my furniture, my house. Like, I mean, I don't even have a lot of pictures on the walls. Like, we might not have any because it would maybe be too cluttered for me. So yeah.
And where does that sense come from? The lack of clutter, is that just because now you almost moved from your visual aesthetic in your work to now you talking about something that could be considered a diagnosable thing here?
Well, I think this is what I mean by like, I feel like I've just grown more confident in like, this is who I am. This is what I like. This is like maybe why I like I mean, I feel like it's a normal human behavior, but probably more so in myself of like, I like the feeling of like control and I like what I like and it's okay because it's okay for everyone to like what they like, as long as it's legal. And, but it's like, yeah, I feel like that is something that I just like that. And I mean, I feel like it has nothing really to, I guess, to do in the sense of like my childhood or maybe in spite of that, because we had a very like floor to ceiling walls covered in my childhood bedroom of just like stuff. My mom's house, floor to ceiling walls covered of images, and my dad doesn't throw anything away. So we've got a lot of knickknacks and things everywhere.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's yeah. I feel like I would rather my life feel more of like an art museum than but like that feels homey to me. Yeah. But like for me it feels homey, but I know I've had friends come over and be like, this is kind of cold in here, so it's like I have very honest friends, so I feel like like but I feel homey here, and that's all that matters, and I'm okay if it's like not everybody's like cup of tea.
Yeah, I get that. I live with a very messy woman, and I like to try my best to keep the world around me quite tidy, because I feel very uncomfortable around mess, which obviously is unfortunate when you live with a messy person. But what's that saying that something about an untidy mind, untidy, Anyway,
I'd say I'm like a hoarder that's a wannabe minimalist. Like I can't bring myself to get rid of things. I'll keep the most random thing, but I'll have it stored away in a drawer and organized. But I would like to be more minimal. I just know I'm not.
I do have closets and little drawers and cubbies that are like all of the. Actually, I do have this little cabinet. You probably won't be able to see it, but like there's this little cabinet here, and this bottom in there is filled with all of the colorful board games, and they're all like mismatched everywhere. So it's like everything that is like not fitting the vibe of like my like what I like is stuffed in that cupboard.
Yeah.
But I still like those board games.
Yeah.
But talking about like a wedding day, you aim for some sort of minimalism in your images, and so you're trying to keep things minimal and not focus on certain things, but what are you aiming to try and capture? Like obviously the emotion of the day, but what elements of a day are you trying to capture?
Yeah, I would say the elements of like, again, the feeling of the people. Like I think that the bride's personality is something that I like to capture, but in the sense of like her confident side, or I try to make her feel confident by the way I interact with her. So even less on the back end, but how I interact with her while I'm shooting, like just like talking to her and like spending time with her. I feel like that kind of thing, or like if she has girls around her, just kind of embracing the day. I honestly feel like I haven't heard, I mean, I'm sure people have talked about it. I just haven't heard people talk about it. But like, I mean, a lot of how like everything happens on a morning is literally you speaking to them and how you're interacting with whoever is there, and that like personal relationship and how you are, I feel like affects how somebody gets portrayed on the camera. And so I tend to like to be, like I've literally become like over the last couple of years, the kind of clients that book me are people that like I actually want to be friends with. So we try to like go to drinks before their wedding day. I've gotten dinners with most every couple after their wedding day, some multiple times, and some now are like really close friends. And so I feel like that is actually my kind of, so even though aesthetically it's very minimal, I feel like I'm more of like, I actually care about having a relationship with this person. So a lot of that has to do with like talking to them. And then for me, I get excited when I get a photo of the couple interacting with each other and they don't know that I'm doing it. So it's usually like when we're walking or strolling, or they're just hanging out, and then like I'm like a ninja kind of coming in behind them with like a flash if they're just like chatting or something. But yeah, so I feel like that, but they're comfortable around me. So it's not like in a creepy way. So, cause they're like, oh, hey Mel, like, you know, it's like, they're excited. Like they're just, I feel like that's the relationship that I try to develop with couples. And I feel like that has a lot to do with how they get portrayed, and that end product is what excites me or that's what I try to do, which is probably more relationship based. Even though I do have a very specific style in my head of how I want to capture the day, but I think it's more, I get very comfortable taking photos of anything, but also like, you know, when you see like a couple in like a cool outfit and you like, especially a girl, like, you know, if somebody has an outfit and you know, I don't know, maybe it's like I don't know, that may be sexist, but maybe as a girl, I would know this more, but like, maybe you guys do this too, but like if you see a girl who looks sick, like sick as in like she looks amazing and she has like a great outfit on, then she clearly thought a lot about it. So if you go up to her and be like, hey, can I take your photo? Which obviously the bride and groom would love, they invited that person, then she gets so excited and she's like, and that could end up like the coolest, like, you know, guest photo because she's so excited and so honored. And then they probably end up booking you for their wedding as well. So it's like one of these things that actually, like, that's happened to me multiple times just because I've liked this girl's outfit. And then she's been so honored that I've asked, can I take your photo? I mean, she is a guest, but it's like just knowing that, like, I know that she took so much time to put that outfit together is like, that was like, she was so happy about that. So anyways, little like things like that are just like my own personal interests that kind of spill into like, wedding days, I guess. But yeah, I don't know if that actually answered your question. I feel like that was like,
yeah, definitely.
Sorry.
Okay. When you were saying that about, thinking about other people's effort in the clothes that they wear, it always like, it reminded me almost of street photographers who you see on TikTok or you see on YouTube, and their thing is just photographing people in the street, but not like a street photographer would in the way that, oh, I'm just going to capture what's there. They go up to people and they go, hey, I really thought you looked cool. Can I take your portrait? And then they show them the work and they have to do the whole, oh, I'm an actual photographer, not a creep. But I've always been interested in that kind of like, how are they able to go up to people? And it's obviously because of that type of mindset where, you know, people do spend a lot of effort in the way that they appear in public. And so when you go out and you want to make a portrait of someone, it would be more of a positive for them. Yeah. Because of the amount of effort they put in. So yeah. Do you have any like, I mean, this is almost doing a 180, but you know, do you have any like specific techniques that you apply to shooting, whether that be you always shoot with a crazy high shutter speed, or you've always got your flash on, or you shoot an aperture priority, like almost a mechanical question here. Like, do you have any like go to? I'm here. This is the kind of settings I want to use, or is it all auto?
Yeah, I feel like. I mean, I use autofocus, but in the sense of like, I feel like I haven't. I try not. I mean, I guess I don't really think too much about the tech side. I feel like when I go into, like, let's just say it's like a house or a cottage or a hotel room, and there's a big window. I instantly, first thing I do is I start at 100 for ISO. I'm doing this because as you scroll on a Canon. So it's like you scroll it down to like 100. And that's like how I start. I just start there, like base 100, go in, make everything like the lowest and just see. And then from there, I just adjust. But that's how I start, I guess, every morning. So that's like a technical thing that I guess I do straight away. And then just adjust it as like, you know, if you're away from the window versus closer or that kind of thing. That's with natural light. I feel like with I've been doing more and more, like I get all the like details. And then when people are like looking at like people doing the speeches, I'll do that like ambient. So it feels more emotive. But actually once I get all the main bits and all the main people in that like ambient vibe of like all the speeches, I'll instantly switch to flash because it's just, and honestly, sometimes it's just like the vibe, especially with the cheersing and stuff, like I'll do some of that in ambient as well. But like, then I switch to flash after I get all those parts in ambient just to give them the option. Cause sometimes I feel like, it's just nice to have both. Cause in the end product, the end storytelling of the day, sometimes it fits more for when I feel like I'm telling the story, but then it gives the couples options as well. So it's again a win-win. So they get it both in like natural and flash. But I've been doing that the last probably year or two, making sure I get all the vibes in like natural light as well as flash. Even like details, I'll get them in both now. So I don't know. That's like a technical thing that I've started doing in the last year or two.
Yeah.
Have you faced any challenges when using your flash, like being given into trouble by a minister, or has a video person come up to you and be like, "Stop using your flash"?
I think only one time in this last year, they're like, "Oh, can you hold up on the flash real quick?" I forgot who that was, but it was just for like for them like walking so they could get it without the flash or something. But no, I think I've only shot at one church in this whole last year, randomly. So that's not been a thing. Like I guess it's probably just like you get what you post. And so I haven't posted many churches. And so I've only had one, like at St. Mary's here. I did a wedding, which it was like large and bright enough that I didn't need, but I wouldn't use flash in a church. So that's what I was going to say. I was like, I wouldn't use it in a place that you're not allowed to use it. But more so in the sense of like, whenever you get to the speeches and they're lingering too long at the end, then you could just go up and be like, flash, flash, flash. And then they'll like wrap up their speech probably pretty quick. Like whenever the bride and groom are like, especially when the bride is like, I'm done with this groomsman who just wants to be heard. I've done that before, which I think the brides loved. And I'm not like in his face or intruding. It's just like enough to be like, he's like, blinking.
Oh man. Well, there's a first. I've never heard that tip before. But if your speeches are going on too long, just like aggressively flash them.
But from below, so people could still see him and he could still finish his speech.
Of course.
Going back to like you mentioned, going up to somebody who's dressed really cool and saying, "Hey, can I take your picture?" Like talk a bit more about that in practical terms. Like, what's your approach once you've said that? how are you then guiding them? Like, what if they're not in good light at that point? Or do you wait until a point in the day where they are? And then what's your mindset on getting them to have that sort of sassiness
Yeah. Most of
if
the
they
time.
don't instantly have it?
Yeah. So most of the time when I ask, I probably 100% of the time, it's actually always been during the reception when everyone's just like getting drinks, whether it's like
Yep.
before everyone's seated, or it's like an indoor building where it's flash, or it's like after, and it's again indoor, everyone's getting like drinks at a bar, it's dark, dance floor, but they're like the people lingering on the edge by the bar of the dance floor. And so that's usually when I'm going around and asking, because at that point everyone's a bit looser, everyone's a bit more lax, they've seen me all day, they know I'm the photographer, versus like right in the beginning, you know, when they're first getting their glasses of champagne before the ceremony, you know, and they're like, who are you? Are you a guest? Are you the, you know, that kind of thing. But by the end of the night, everybody knows that who the photographer is. But also, again, when it comes to that, like how you shoot like somebody, I always think about like where to shoot them. If I ask them like, oh, this wall over here would be perfect. And so then I can even just get them to like walk toward, I'll just be like, oh, do you want to just like stand over there and then like just pose and then just like walk towards me and like look that way. And then they'll literally just like walk right by me and I'm like, and then I'll just get like one good one from that. That kind of a thing. And then the flash, again, I feel like that the flash, again, paparazzi style, it does make, I would say most girls that I've come in contact with, again, people who, you know, appreciate fashion or appreciate putting together an outfit, however that looks like for them. They'll just be like, you know, excited about showing off their outfit. Or if they said yes, they probably are excited as well. So then they're, you know, more of like strutting versus like, or they probably wouldn't have said yes if they didn't want to like show off their outfit.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, thanks. Yeah.
There's a really interesting thing with photography. It doesn't really happen with video, but it's the reason why when I'm taking a photograph, I always count down. If it's like a group photograph, I go 1, 2, 3, because there's like an instant where people are the way they want to be portrayed on a photo, right? So if you don't do a count or you don't say a thing, people are just like, they're not sure what to do. There's an awkwardness. But then when there's a countdown, they almost prepare themselves mentally and physically, like they'll adjust themselves,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And I get the feeling the flash kind of has that vibe as well. Like if you weren't to use a flash and you weren't saying anything, they wouldn't really know when to do the thing they're going to do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
whereas as soon as that flash goes off, they fucking know.
Yeah.
And they've got however many seconds with you. So yeah, they probably are encouraged to just be like, oh yeah. I'm not because there's video on now. I'm not gonna throw a pose. But yeah, there's an encouragement there. Of course, there's other things. You know, the traditional say cheese. Just joking. Melody, what? Let's get super dry here for people who really want to know what is in your camera bag, especially as a photographer who travels a lot. What are you shooting with? What's your flash? Any other toys that you've got in your bag?
I have a Canon 5D Mark IV. It's like my main camera. My backup camera is the 3, which is my baby, and I still love it. I love all the photos from it. It's
Classic.
just like my backup one. And then I always have my 28 prime, which is what I used to just shoot all of my weddings on. And then I have my 50 prime, and I have not used those in probably almost 2 years. As soon as I got the 24 to 70, I haven't taken it off my camera body, which is kind of crazy. So I've literally just been shooting that for the last maybe like year and a half. It was like 2 summers ago I got that lens. And I thought it would just be like, oh, like an extra zoom lens, but I'd stick to my primes, which is what I did for years, and just have the one for like the whole day. But no, I ended up liking the zoom. So that was like an interesting thing. It's like, you just don't know until you try something, how it's going to work for you. It's worked great for like my style and stuff. And also the ease of just like being more low key, less changing of stuff. But yeah, always have extra batteries, the cards. My flash is just the Canon EOS. I don't know the exact name, but it is just the classic Canon. I don't know. I'm bending it like this because that's what I do, like to direct flash, like a little baby hand. Just that classic one, nothing fancy, or like nothing like off brand. It's like a very classic. I feel like wedding photographers thing. Yeah, so I feel like I'm not a techie person, so it's kind of boring. But backups of everything is important. Backup CF. I still use CF because I'm using a 4. So it's like CFs, SDs. Yeah. I'm trying to think. I always like to have disposable cameras with me. I do have an Olympus, not Olympus, Yashica T5 that I got this last year. So I've been having that in my bag and just having it as like something in case I want to take a film photo. If somebody doesn't had that as an add-on, which I have, like, and so sometimes people will add on film rolls. So they can do that. But either way, I have it in my bag. And sometimes I'll do it on my own if I'm like, oh, this would actually be kind of like a nice to see in like film later and see what that looks like. But I feel like that's kind of it. Besides all the backups of things, chargers.
All right. Any like do you have a
I have an LED panel flash.
Is that what they call it? Is that a LED panel? Okay.
Yeah, just for like
any prisms or smoke grenades or
no. But there was a girl. I just did a workshop in France, and there was a girl there that had one of those flashlights with the big circles. And that looked really cool with different colored lights. And I was like, oh, that's totally my vibe. And so anyways, literally after that, I went and I purchased one online and now that's in my bag. And I have actually used it for, I did one at this like a venue here in Newtown for a bridal editorial, and it was amazing. I haven't shared those photos yet, but I'm excited to because it looks sick. This like little flashlight circle thing that I bought. So yeah, so I have one of those.
What is I'm trying to, is it like a beauty light that you shove in the, like on top of your lens, or is it? Okay.
It just is like a flat, like you're just holding
like
it. It's not attached
handheld
to your camera at all. It's just like a flashlight, but it's like
oh, right.
a circle, and it's like a harsh circle, and it could be like green, blue, red, or white.
Yeah. That sounds like it came straight out of Brooks' photography bag.
So you've mentioned like the flash brings out the sass and the attitude from a couple, but how are you when you're interacting like on couple shoot when it's just their session? What's your sort of approach to getting the mood from the couple? Like how are you sort of directing? How are you acting with them?
Yeah. I mean, I don't do any like prompts or anything. I'm usually more of just like, oh, just like hold hands and go like, you guys can walk and chat. And I was like, I'm just going to like linger behind you. I usually do that first just so they can go ahead of me. They can actually chat, hold hands, and actually be like in their moment. I'm behind them so they can't see me. So I feel like that I always start with that. So then it's like, they don't see me. They get to go for a walk. I push them far away only because then I will stay behind and then I'll yell and be like, all right, now you can walk back from a distance. But it's like, but it gives them that time to just like, especially if it's like maybe their first look or after the ceremony. So this is their first time chatting all day and that kind of thing. So yeah, I'll usually just have the couple like, anyways, when they start coming back to me, then I'm just like, just keep talking amongst yourselves. Like, I think that's more of my, like, I'm not like I don't ever say to like say anything or whisper anything or anything. I'm literally like, either I'm chatting with them and just being like, whoa, did you see that guy's suit? Like, da da da. And like, they're like, oh yeah, that's like my brother's blah, blah, blah. Or, you know, that kind of, yeah. So it's like, so it's a lot of just like either I'm chatting with them or I'm just like talk amongst yourselves, because a lot of my favorite thing is like probably more of the movement ones where they're just literally walking. And then I always have them not look at my camera, or I'll tell them to look at my camera. Like, it's just, that's maybe the only directions I would give is some of the strolling. I'll be like, oh, look over when you're walking, or I'll just be like, look away. So I feel like it's honestly all very like low key. I feel like I'm not a very, directing type. I'm just more of making sure that the
Yeah.
light is flattering on their faces, which they probably wouldn't realize that, but it's more of like wherever I'm asking them to walk or whatever angle it is, they don't understand. But for me, it's more of like I'm just making sure that it's like the most flattering.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I think we're leaning towards that as well. Just let a couple be as they want to be, and don't try and almost manufacture anything. I do want to talk about your website though, Melody. 'Cause we were mentioning black and white, and if I go, or if anyone out there is on your laptop, go to melodyjoy.co and just have a look. Melody, you really do not like color. Every single image, except for actually, there's a couple of thumbnails right at the bottom where you've got featured blogs, featured weddings. You've got a couple with some color. Why? Why show the majority of work in black and white just off the get go to clients? Do you think it's confusing, or? And I'm adding in things.
I wouldn't say it's confusing because I feel like the clients that actually end up booking me will probably click on those. And like there's a lot of color if you click through one of them. There is a good bit of color. Like if you click through the blogs. So
there is.
Yeah. So I feel like it's more of like aesthetically, it's just what I prefer. And I think that's a good example of like, so I have a wedding brochure. I could send it to you guys, but I have a FAQ, and one of the first questions is, do you only shoot in black and white, or do you ever shoot in color? And that's a question I do get a good bit, but only from people who maybe don't, I could tell they maybe haven't looked at all of my website, because I do show color for most of the blogs. It's just more of like, I basically say I do deliver every single image in both color and black and white. I just personally prefer black and white. So that's probably all I'm going to post from your wedding. And so, that's why I chose because all the black and whites tend to be my favorite version of those images. And the few that are color on the main images are just because maybe I prefer them actually in color, which is rare.
Yeah. So that's interesting actually, because we've spoken to a few photographers who they balance their portfolio with black and white and color. And they deliver in different ways. So you deliver all the images both in black and white and in color. What's your thought process with the way you're delivering there?
I mean, I just edit everything in color, and then I just literally, Command CV, literally make every duplicate black and white to like everything as I'm editing, and I do it so like not even thinking about it now. But yeah, I think it's just because I want people to have the memory. I think, again, it goes back to the memories and the fact that we are in this day and age. I think that's why sometimes it kind of like, I understand why people do just black and white film, but in my head, I'm like, do color film, and you could just make it black and white. It literally is not gonna, it's still gonna be the same process. So you could see what it looked like in color. But just for me, as much as I love black and white, I feel like because because film started, or photographs started as just black and white, then like sepia, then it came to color in the last 200 something years. So it's like it's like the fact that we've developed and we can now see color. Isn't that nice to see the memories of what that color was for your day? So for me, it's more of a sentimental memory thing of being able to see what the colors of people's outfits were, what the colors of your florals were, the building, the sky, the sunset, the whatever. But then it's like, my just personal preference is black and white because I feel like it's more focused and minimal, and maybe aesthetically I would like it more in my house. But it is still nice as like maybe flip book and memories, because I remember looking in flip books of my parents and grandparents and stuff, and like seeing like those like film photos of like the colors of what their couch was, and you know, that kind of thing. So anyways, that's really why I do it, because I feel like more for sentimental reasons of seeing what the colors of the day were, which is why I was saying that I actually feel like I'm maybe editing more natural color because I'm posting black and whites anyways. So I'm going more towards the sentimental side of that versus like editing so dark for the color.
Yeah. I wonder how many photographers are like, usually they'll start their coloring by applying their preset, but then they'll go to do black and white and they'll have another preset for black and white. But the way you described it there was just like you take your color and you just desaturate everything, and that's your black and white, right?
Yeah, well, I don't even know what Lightroom necessarily does. I literally just like duplicate the photo and I click V. So whatever V is in Lightroom, I think it maybe is just desaturating it. But all I know is that like I can, maybe I should see what it is actually doing, but maybe it is doing that. I don't know. I've been literally doing the same way since I've used Lightroom, but it might just be because it's taking the line curve that I do. It's basically making the black and white over what I've just like with the curve and the adjusting of all the things that I do, which I still do everything manually, whatever I'm doing. And then I duplicate it and then put V on it. I think it does just, it must just desaturate because all the other settings are still, the other settings are still the same on the photo, and then it's just black and white. So it probably does just desaturate it. Maybe it's just like a shortcut.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I do wonder how many photographers out there are, if they do have a different preset for black and white. Because if I'm coloring stuff, and obviously I'm not a photographer, right? But I'll go through all my presets and be like, which one looks the best? So it's not like I'm applying two different grades essentially to an image, rather than your approach was just to take the color out. Although I do think that the way that you color an image works quite well for just taking out the colors. I do really like your composition and your use of light, and even the way that you work with like straight lines. I really like that about it, and I all that kind of it does help with coloring as well.
Hey, I'm Ashley from With Jack. I'm one of the sponsors of the Perspective podcast. With Jack helps to keep photographers in business by supporting them financially and legally if they have problems with a client or they make a mistake in their work. We've all had that fear of our CF card or our hard drive failing and losing important photos. You can find out more at withjack.co.uk. Head over there and find out how we can help you be a confident creative.
Sorry, Greg, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm just adding stuff in. I'm on your website. I've just clicked through a couple of websites. I'm like, oh, the Kalari. Oh, yeah. Let's see how you've captured that. And I'm going through, and it's quite interesting because PickTime it gives you kind of stats for the year, and obviously being filmmakers, it has a stat which says you shot 100% of your photos in landscape. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I'd never really thought about. I always get jealous when I see photographers being able to like invert their camera and do it portrait mode. And I'm looking at all your images, and I would say probably 2/3 of them, roughly, don't actually know the number, but are the 2/3 are like vertical.
Yeah.
What's your approach to composition in terms of like having the ability to shoot something in landscape and then shoot them in portrait? Do you have like a thought process? Or
My thought process, if it's an epic scene, I do it in both because horizontal is good for Google SEO images and vertical is good for Pinterest.
Okay.
I mean, it's not very, that's like my left my left brain side. That's literally what I think of when I think, if it's like a good scene and I'm like, ooh, I want to use that. Like, it's a beautiful scene. I mean, yeah, maybe it does look better in landscape, but I probably will still shoot it in both ways. And on blog posts, what you were saying, 2/3, it's because all of my blogs, I make sure to, if it's a good scene, getting it, if it's like a scene and they're walking around, I'll make sure to get something in this and in this. Even the castle, I think I've included a landscape and a vertical at some point in the blog post to be able to make it good for Google and make it good for Pinterest, because I'll be able to pin this one for Pinterest. So I feel like that is the technical reason of why I do that. And then it's a win-win for the couple, because even if it was like better in this version or this version, aesthetically, they're going to get both if it's like in an epic scene. But that's probably more of what I'm thinking. Sometimes it is like, to get rid of junk on the sides if it's just this way.
Yeah.
But I mean, especially when it's like, if it's scene, like a landscape type scene, I mean, wide just naturally is better for like getting the most land.
Is it? Do you ever get frustrated with like picking a thumbnail for a gallery where you're like, maybe there's a moment that you want to say this moment represents the gallery, but it's like landscape, where I'm looking at all your thumbnails and sorry, it's vertical, and I'm looking at all your images on your thumbnails and their landscape. Have you ever had a frustration moment there, or
I feel like
are you sorry, you go.
Yeah, no, not really. I think like, because visually I like the way the landscape looks for the blog post for how I've laid out my website. That's why I've chosen that, because I could make them up and down. Like I have that option to do that, but because then I would need to make them all that way. And I do feel like there's something about landscape that feels more of like a photo book, or more of like it feels more of like a wedding album book, versus up and down does feel more like social media, like Pinterest and stuff. Whereas I think I want my website to feel more wide. I mean, when you're looking at your desktop screen, it is this shape. So that's kind of, it makes more sense, because then when it opens up, it's like fills the screen better aesthetically.
I it's because obviously I do get jealous with photographers being able to do the whole vertical thing, because there was one moment when we were shooting in Butterick just outside Edinburgh, and Borthwick, and who were we shooting with? James Frost. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I want to get the couple in the castle in the background." And it was nice center frame, and I was like, "All right, cool. I need to move further back." Like
he
quite
just
a lot.
shoots like that, gets it all. We're shooting sort of widescreen and going, we need to go even further to get it all.
I had to go so far back, and then like just to get the castle, the top of the castle, in with the couple, and then I had to shoot low to have the headroom right, and then you're incorporating all this kind of like sideways information into the image. I'm like, oh god, why can't I just be vertical? But that's almost a sin for a filmmaker to say that. But
sticking on the black and white theme, like that, obviously, as well as it being sort of what you like and what you prefer, it obviously gives your work online a sort of distinctive look. And if people are sort of skimming Instagram, they'll notice it and be like, oh, that might be a melody image, because it's got that sort of composition and minimalism, and it's black and white. So is there any other advice that you could give people to sort of try and create a distinctive look for their online presence?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the reason there's so much black and white and there's so much of the way I shoot is just because I actually just really like that. So that's why it's like when couples ask like, oh, do you do color or black and white? It's like, well, it's like, I'll do both, but I'm going to post black and white because that's just actually what I personally like. And I tell them that, and I'm like, so I'll probably just post the black and whites from your wedding day if you see it at all. And so, yeah, I would say like, just find something that you actually really like. And I feel like then it should eventually stand out, because it's like, I feel like everyone's different. And then just, yeah, I mean, I think that's, I guess what I'm saying is that it's there's ways to stand out visually as your own if you do something that feels like you. So yeah, then people will associate you with your work if it feels like you as a person.
Yeah.
The landscape of Scotland versus like the urban setting of like Chicago. How do you balance that in your portfolio? Is it something you struggle with, or
No, I mean, actually, a couple just asked me to shoot them in the Isle of Mull yesterday, and I was like, no. I was like, here's a list of other Scottish photographers that are great in like the outdoors, and I honestly just don't really have a desire to shoot in the great outdoors of Scotland, as beautiful as it is. My husband loves hiking. We love going up north ourselves on the weekends and going on little walks. I like going to like a cute little Airbnb with a little fireplace and hot tub. Love it all day. But the actual couple in the rain, I've done it a couple times for maybe like couples that I really love or I know. But after doing a handful, I have realized that I just am a city person. And like, I think that's why most of my weddings actually are now like in Edinburgh, or in London. So, or even just if it's scattered, it's mainly nearby cities, which is more my vibe. So it's like if it's like a castle or an estate nearby Edinburgh, even if there's some land, we can get, them with some land in it, but like, then we can get them with the house in the background and different hallways and staircase and, that kind of stuff. So it could still feel more, like urban in some ways, but that's just again, it's a personal preference. And I feel like over time, I definitely have become more choosy, and I'm very happy to say no now. Like the Carols, I refer them all the time now to anybody up north. Love them. And so it's like, but there's like a handful of really good, like, outdoor, like mountain Scotland photographers. So yeah, I haven't had issues just because like I, again, will post those images of like landscapes and up north. There's a couple from Boston that I just shot their wedding in Skye this past October. And they rented out they rented out the entire Sligacken Hotel, and it was beautiful, and I absolutely loved it. But it's one of those things, like I probably wouldn't do more than like one or two of those a year. And I think I would just prefer to do cities. Yeah. Like I love the city. I just like buildings and streets. Yeah. Just a personal preference, I guess.
So funny. Yeah. I hate the city. I hate the city. I don't actually. I really enjoy shooting in the city, but like once I'm there, it's great. It's just getting into the city. It's getting in there.
The logistics of it.
It's moving around in the city. It's getting a taxi here, maybe, or that's the stuff I don't enjoy. Do you have any tips, Melody? Do you have any tips for people who struggle with moving around a city like me? Do you use Ubers or do you just walk? What's your go-to?
Because we just bought a place, we chose to do it right in the middle of Edinburgh. So we're like a 10-minute walk to Waverley. So we're pretty central. So we can just walk to most wedding venues. I actually have been targeting wedding venues around here with whether I've done style shoots for them or I'm now on their like suppliers list. So my goal is, because we want to start a family in this next year, hopefully, like I will just be able to go walk to these wedding venues and like walk home. So that is like the goal. But there are some venues that are maybe like, especially at like, maybe I can walk to the wedding or like to the hotel that's nearby, because most of the hotels are actually pretty walking distance from our flat. And so I'll just go walk to their getting ready hotel, Uber with them or ride with them to the venue. But then maybe if the venue is like on the old, so we're on the new town side of Edinburgh. And if they're on the old town side of Edinburgh, maybe at night, not the wisest, or if it's wet, to like walk all the way back like 25 minutes with my camera. So even if it is like a 25-30 minute walk, I still might like Uber back with all of my equipment and stuff, just so I'm not like waddling back in the rain, or for safety. Not that it's like I don't feel nervous at all here compared to Chicago. Now Chicago is like Uber A to B at night
yeah.
for I would never take public transit in Chicago at night, especially with anything valuable. So
Yeah, probably a good call, to be fair. What's your favorite venue in Edinburgh to shoot? And I'll say, I'll just leave it at that. Open question. What's your favorite?
I mean, I really like the European room at the Edinburgh City Chambers on the Royal Mile. It's not their regular, it's not their regular, like the downstairs room is where most people get ready. And you can only use the European room on the weekends because it's actually in use for the council during the week. So, but I've shot in that room a couple times and I love that room. I also did a wedding a couple of years ago. There was a girl that actually used to work at the council, and I don't even know if they still do weddings in this room, but it's got like a balcony in it. And I haven't seen a wedding in it since then. But it's like a huge, also another room, not called I forgot what it's called, but it's also up somewhere deep in the couple stories up in the city chambers. And those, I feel like, because that building is really historic, those rooms are super ornate. And even though it's like vibrant carpets, like bright blue or bright like red, it still like looks really cool. Yeah. And they all like really, really cool painting. Oh, so it almost feels like an art gallery or a museum because they have like really huge tapestries, and, like, floor to ceiling, like big artworks on the wall that are really historic that I really love. And their staircase is pretty grand in there. But yeah, no, it kind of just feels like an art museum, I guess. But I also like the Royal College of
We've shown there, haven't we, Greg?
Yeah, we shot Charlotte and Rory in there.
That's right.
This last year.
Yeah, cracking.
The European room, sorry.
Yeah, I like it. Really nice. And then the Royal College of Physicians as well is nice on Queen Street. That's probably the closest wedding venue to our flat.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's, I was just put on their suppliers list on their website. So I was like really happy after doing a couple weddings there this last year. So I haven't blogged them yet. So I'm hoping after blogging them, I will get more weddings there this next year. That's what this February is for me, is like blogging month. From this last year.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So how... Like you mentioned earlier that you like to get drinks with your couples and afterwards you'll get some dinner and stuff. Like, what else are you doing before the wedding to try and sort of like get to know them and get to know the sort of, for want of a better word, the concept for the wedding? Like, what are you doing to prepare yourself to go into the wedding day?
Yeah. I mean, usually it's like, if we don't get drinks beforehand, it's like a Zoom call, or sometimes it's a couple phone calls. One bride was like telling me about her like hen do and how that went, and was just telling me all about it. And so I do feel like I try to ask more questions that maybe don't necessarily have to do with the wedding day, and just be like, how are you doing? How's you got a lot of things going on right now, kind of a vibe. But no, I think a lot of it is, I feel like it, I'm not, again, I'm a planner in the sense, like, I have my own idea and like a mental checklist in my head of all the things I want to do. It just looks different for every wedding. So in my head, I have like the different shots I want to get, and it'll just, obviously look different for the lighting and the situations of every wedding. But in regards to planning with the couple, so I do like my own mentally, but like, and with the venue and scouting and stuff, but with the couple, I don't do much plan. Like, if they want to give me a board, that's totally fine. Some do, some don't. Some people book a venue based just because they love the venue. So then I know that's important to them. Yeah, I kind of feel like it's more of like, I just try to get to know the couple to where she's comfortable with me, because I feel like on a wedding day, it just makes it so much more chill. But I feel like I get a good sense just in enough conversations, whether it is with drinks or Zoom or phone calls, just get enough knowledge to know what's important to them. I mean, also my wedding day questionnaire, I ask as well, like, what's important to you? What do you want to make sure we don't miss, whether it's like a handkerchief from your grandma, or whether it's a certain person, or like that kind of thing. If maybe somebody's like has cancer, or, that kind of stuff. So it's like all that kind of stuff is important to know before going into a wedding day, and that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with like planning out like itinerary stuff. I don't really do that too much. It's except for if it's like a city chambers couple and they're not from here and they're like, oh, can you give me a route? And then I will happily create a route for them of like where we're going to walk and like screenshot a Google Maps, be like, this is where we're going to walk.
Yeah.
These are the little points. We'll take photos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of bookings during the Fringe?
This last year, I had a handful. I turned most of them down. There was one couple that he's from here but has moved down to Barcelona, and I'm shooting their wedding at Drumtakti in a couple months. But they,
Cool.
they live in Barcelona, so they were just here, and it was just over that like fringy time period. So so I said yes to that just because it was like that was their only time they could be here. But I feel like it actually there's still enough quiet pockets over there that you can make work. But also there's like the National Portrait Gallery. There's like that little lane by Cafe Royal. Like there's so many places that are quiet and enough off the grid that are not flooded with like it's really just the Royal Mile. Really, that's the only bit that's like bumper to bumper.
Yeah.
Or Princess Street, yeah.
But there's some really pretty places to shoot on the Royal Mile. That's the thing that bums out a lot of photographers. We mentioned newcomers like really early on, but do you have any advice for people in that kind of like first to second year of business, just to help them in any way?
I would say it's not like stress yourself out too much and not to lose like the fun. I know I feel like there was a long time where I was like, and I'm still very focused on business, but I feel like I am, I was so focused that I didn't have as much fun. There was like a season where it was like less fun and more like focused. Whereas now it's like I feel like if I could go back and just tell myself to like, oh, just like try to be in the moment as well and have fun as well as, be focused, have a plan, like, like it's, you can do both. Like, so I feel like that's maybe something to not stress too much. I mean, it's easier, like, somebody in advance saying that, but it is like to remember to enjoy the journey and the process of what you're doing. Because it will get like, you'll get to where you're going or it'll always be changing. So I guess that's why I'm saying like, just enjoy where you're at. Because like even now it's like, it's still going to keep changing and you're going to keep growing and you're going to keep learning new things like forever. So you'll never feel like you're like there. It'll always just be changing. And so it's like, to just start enjoying it sooner than later.
Yeah.
Great piece of advice.
Yeah.
Because remember, we're all going to end up in the same place. Dead. Next question, Greg.
Are there any weddings or projects coming up this year that you're particularly excited about? Like any that stand out to you?
Yeah. So right now I have one that's being planned in Belgrade that I'm pretty excited about. I've never been to Serbia. There's also like a couple that's having me come and shoot them on their honeymoon in Switzerland. And I'm really excited about that because I've never been to Switzerland. Cool. So there's like some like random things like that where it's like I'm going to be able to go to places that I haven't been to before, but also another you just asked about weddings, but on a personal note, I am going to, like my husband and I have talked about like trying to actually just like travel more just for travel's sake and not just like for work and weddings and stuff. So that's like a personal goal is to not always like go for just like work wise. And so that's maybe just something that we've learned. It's like this last year we did a lot of really cool, like he has a 9-to-5 tech job, but like on the weekends, he's very kind enough to like second shoot with me when I need one. But I think like doing a bunch, we went to like Italy and did a wedding and just we're able to explore a lot of new places together. But I do feel like going for work is a totally different experience than just going for for like a holiday and just not doing work. So definitely want to do more of that as well. But no, I am still excited. I actually think I still am going back to Chicago like 4 or 5 times this year. But for like random, but it's like for like long weekends. It's like I won't be staying as long as like I have in the past, or like I don't have an apartment there anymore. And so yeah, so I feel like I'm looking forward to that.
Are you going to be treating traveling to Chicago a little bit differently? Because what's the work visa type thing that you have to do? Is it different now?
I assume you've got dual citizenship.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as an American.
Well, let's not assume, Greg.
Well, as an American citizen.
Let the woman speak, Greg. God.
As an American citizen, I can always work there. And actually, in this next week, I have a meeting with my accountant here in Edinburgh, and she's going to be explaining to me how I can do taxes in both places. I mean, I'm already doing taxes in both places, but like what I can claim there versus here more clearly. So we will figure out where I'll be paying those taxes to. So that is like a less fun side of the business side. But either way, no, I legally can like shoot as much as I want in America because I'm an American citizen. So it's just more about like figuring out where to pay those taxes. Whereas like the UK is very obvious. The UK. Yeah.
Yes. Cool. Yeah. It's one of those
There's
things.
No sneaking into the country for Melody.
Well, a lot of people do just like, sneak into countries and work. And I just, some people take the risk.
Yeah. Do you have to get a work?
Go down the more legal route?
Do you have to do a work visa to go? I mean, I wouldn't know because I'm American. So like do you have to have a visa? I haven't looked into it. If you're not American,
I think you're supposed to.
You're supposed to.
It's almost. I think it's almost impossible to get as a wedding photographer. So a lot, like nobody really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe.
So why are you here? Oh, not work. Pleasure. Anyway, let's get on to my favorite part of the podcast, show and tell. This is actually going to be really fun because I did your notes really early on, Melody, so I can't remember the images of yours I've selected, which is going to be great because usually there's a reason why I select these images, and I won't remember the reason because it's now another year altogether. But I'm going to muddle my way through. So probably the reason I picked this image is because obviously that whole... Like you mentioned, you use a lot of direct flash, and I feel like it's on trend, but goes down to the minimalism of a shot, which I feel like it's all over your style. To me, this is just like a perfect example of that. But first of all, can you see the TV?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can see the image? Yeah. Can you tell us the story behind this image, if you can remember?
Yeah, that's actually, one of my friends, Jen, I was shooting her wedding. It's at a Michelin restaurant called Elsk in Chicago, where I'm actually shooting a wedding this Saturday. So same venue.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, no, this bride, she's amazing. She's an interior designer. She's awesome. That's why everything's so structural with her. Again, I think it's an example of like, so this is, just the dance party at the end of the night. But yeah, no, I feel like, it's a good example of like somebody picking me that also is into like structure, fashion, like good food, like good, just everything about it is style led. And that's how she is as a person as well. So her and I are like, we vibe as like people as well. So I think that's really what I've like niched my thing down to, is like my brides are more of like, we would be like friends. But that's a good example of this, but no, this, I can't recall if I did get rid of things on the sides, but I might have, but it is perfect of like, in the sense of like, I like that it is just the focus of her. And I don't really care about the whole like, oh, like don't crop it like different bits for limbs and stuff. Like, I don't care. I didn't go to photography school, so.
Yeah.
That place is for schmucks. Anyway, what I like about it is, I mean, when editing, you could have very easily have taken out all the detail from the back. You could have done that, but you've left bits of it, hints, and I quite like the hints. And obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, you might not be able to get a sense of it just because they're very subtle hints. But you can see someone's dress in the background. There's a groom, well, not a groom, but a guy's shirt in the background there. So they're a little bit of a wine glass. There are still hints of stuff being there.
But you can glance at this image and get like the feel for she's somebody who's got style, like just from the wedding dress and the way you've shot it and used the flash to keep it minimal. Like you can get all that from just glancing at this image.
Yeah. So I really like it. You know how we were talking about vertical versus landscape? Because I've not looked at these images, I wonder, and I'm hoping is there 3? You've looked at them.
There's 3, yeah.
So I've kept to 3, which
I can't remember what orientation they are.
I gave 2-to-1, 2 for vertical, 1 landscape. I wonder if I was right with the images that I've selected. We'll see. Next image. Okay.
Oh, nice.
Another vertical. Nice. This is also the same sort of vibe, but it's that kind of, and you were talking about this probably earlier. I don't know who this is, but when you were talking about people being in front of the flash and you grabbing them and doing stuff with them, I got that kind of vibe here. And you've also, you've used the motion blur on the background, but the direct flash to keep the subject still, but the background moving. Tell me about this image if you can remember. Is this the bride? It looks like the bride. She's got white dress on.
This is actually for a bridal editorial for Those Were the Days Bridal in Edinburgh. But this is because I live on this. I always joke with Claire, the owner of the bridal shop. I literally moved to her same street, so now I'm a couple doors down from her, and I've been shooting her dresses for years. So like we're literally we're literally like 5 doors away from each other now. But so this is like a bridal editorial we did at night right in front of our new flat just out the window here, and it's great because it's like my neighborhood, it's Edinburgh, it's nighttime, it's more of the vibe that I want for Edinburgh. But again, like you were saying with the sass, like that's like what I feel like flash does. It literally just makes someone feel, especially like I guess maybe like somebody who is style led or fashion forward, or I guess maybe the people again who would be booking me, they either want to look like this or just already have that attitude. Which, I don't know. I feel like I feel like I don't know. You have to ask my husband. I feel like I'm really nice, but I do maybe have attitude sometimes. So I feel like, but I feel like I like that. I like that vibe and bringing that out. And I think like the brides do as well. But yeah, no, this is like a vintage wedding dress from, Those Were the Days Bridal. This is an editorial for her shop, vintage dress shop, in Stockbridge in Edinburgh. Yeah. So we did a nighttime shoot because I feel like I want more people to do nighttime vibes in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if you get a lot of nighttime vibes from photographers. Do they? Obviously, people tend to just go outside when there's nice light, but I suppose when there's a flash, you can be a little bit more creative. That's what I quite like about shooting in like the autumn. Like you get really nice light, but then it goes really quickly, and you're left with like a dark canvas that you can like use creative means like reflections or that little round handheld light that you were talking about. That'd be ideal for nighttime stuff. So when it gets into the summer, when we're the most popular, like not the most popular, when we're the most busy, there's not as much creative aspects, because you'd be at like 12 o'clock at night by the time it actually got dark enough to use cool lights and stuff. But Quick question before we move on. What would be your general go-to settings for this? For someone who is like a natural light photographer, they don't use flash, but they maybe want to dabble in it. What would be like your go-to settings for trying something like this?
For flash, I always do
Yeah.
whatever the M is, probably manual versus the ETTL on my flash settings. Don't use ETTL.
Yep.
So the other one, M. And then it's usually 116 or 132 on the flash setting. Again,
Okay.
don't know what that means, but that's what it says. And then the ISO, it's like 1 or 200 max. And then the rest is more of like, doesn't matter as much. Well, actually shutter does matter. So it would be like maybe I want to say it's like 0.411 and like around 100 on the three in a row. Is probably, would be a good like click, shake. And that's how you can get the like blur stuff in the background. So yeah, I'm a very
because the blur
creature of habit. So sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing half the time, but when I like what I do, I can visually remember the numbers that I do it. Yeah. In that order.
Yeah.
I think,
So, I mean,
with flash, you just got to play around. Like Joy Zamora, he was talking about, he's always playing and just changing settings constantly. So yeah, just play around and see what works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know if you're trying out Flash for this year. Be interested to see or to hear what your experiences are. Next image. Oh,
it's color. It's color.
It's color. But it's also vertical. So my ratios was wrong. So the reason I like this is because I feel like a lot of photographers are scared of direct light or really harsh days, and they shy away from it. Whereas when I see like a shape, like a really harsh shape, I really love. It's like a playground for me. I'm like, what can I chuck into this shape? And I do it quite often with like details if I feel like I need to capture these details, but I don't have the person on hand to do stuff with the details. Because as a video person, I don't know what it's like for photography, but I feel like for video, if you're gonna shoot the dress, don't just shoot it hanging up. Like have someone interact with it, have it be part of the story. Like whether it's like the bride walking up to it or whatever. But sometimes you get nice shapes of light on the floor coming from windows, or nice glass things. So I really like when photographers can lean into it. So obviously you've got the nice pattern on the wall, but yeah, you've shoved what I'm assuming is the groom into this harsh light. What is your process here with this image?
Yeah, so this wedding was at the Palais Society Hotel in San Francisco. This is Rashawn. And I was shooting, I'd already shot her getting ready, so I was shooting him getting ready here. And this is the second floor bar. This is actually just a bar area. And actually his getting ready shots were some of my favorite I've ever had of a groom. There was also this like bathroom that was like fuzzy on the front, and like you could just see a silhouette of him in it that almost looks like very like murder mystery film. But no, that I think when I just see pockets of light like this, I literally was just like, Rashawn, can you just go stand there? And he's like, it's so sunny. And I was like, oh, I'll count to 3. So it's funny, you're counting to 3. I was like, you can keep your eyes closed, and like I'll just count to 3, and then you could just look, and like we did it like just quick to get him out of the sunny spot. But he did appreciate it. I think he thought it was cool too. I showed him the back of the camera. I was like, oh, that's cool, like light pocket and stuff. So yeah, I think, and it's cool because it's like that hotel is really cool in San Francisco, and like, you know, the wallpaper, the vibe of the hotel, like they obviously loved it because that's why they chose it. And so it's just, it kind of shows that, but it also just, it's just, I think just light pockets in general. I was talking to somebody about light pockets the other day. I feel like I'm just one of these people that's like a squirrel when I see light pockets, because you never know how long they're going to be there. So like on a getting ready morning, whenever I see a little light pocket, I'm like, if a bridemaid's talking to me, you know, chatting, and I see a little light pocket come through over here, I'm like, can you hold that thought real quick? And I'll like take something and be like, because it's like, it could be gone in like 10, 15 seconds. So yeah, I feel like that happens
Yeah.
a lot. So I remember getting very excited about this light pocket, and I don't think it was there that long. But yeah.
Yeah, I have that same excitement as you have just described there. Like looking for light, like even if it's like the tiniest little bit of light coming through a crack of a window or something.
Yeah, you're like, ooh.
My go-to is like either to put something in it or to try and put something in between me and where the light's coming from to get like a abstract silhouette kind of vibe.
Yeah.
You know, I have a smoke machine, like a tiny little smoke machine that I've not used in a while, actually. I suppose you could do this with hairspray, but like getting someone in between you and the light to get that kind of silhouette, but to make it more interesting, just go ham on that smoke or that hairspray just for that little moment. Shoot it in slow motion. It's great. It's great. Anyways, getting too excited here. Well, that was the last image, right, Greg?
It was, yeah.
It was the last image.
So what can people expect from your talk and your session at
Come
Thrive?
on.
It's not a shoot session. Lisa changed it. She's not calling them shoot sessions anymore.
Probably because she can't hear you struggle anymore.
What can people expect from Thrive from you?
I mean, I basically, it's like my only second time like speaking in front of people, so it will be a kind of stumbling with my words, but hopefully giving some type of insight onto like my talk is going to be basically what we've discussed before, which is like what I love doing, which is the business side. So it's like SEO and Pinterest and just like the marketing networking side. Especially as somebody who's like moved from one country from the other, that was like such a big deal for me because I didn't have a network of people here. I didn't grow up here. So that is something that if you are moving or just wanting to do work in a different region, it is something that could be valuable. Or even if you're new and you just need to learn how to do that in general for your area, and you're like new to photography, that could be helpful as well. So that'll be like the main thing I'm focusing on. And then the shoots will be definitely like what you just showed, like my vibe of flash and like sass. I don't know.
Yeah. It'll be really interesting to see everyone's images because, like we mentioned before, Dunglass Estate, very different vibe from, I don't want to say the centre of London, but very London city vibes. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing all the images that come out of that. I'm also hoping to hear your perspective on what it's like to adapt like your website SEO work to more of a local market. And if your approach to booking weddings locally is different from you booking weddings abroad, which will you talk about?
Yeah. I
Maybe
feel
not.
like, I mean, I guess I think it really is like you can market totally different locally because you're going to coffee shops and wine bars and you have more of a everyday community. And so there's like that type of networking versus like more digitally like online for abroad because you're not there every day. So there is like totally two different ways you can market for all of those different regions.
Because and I feel like when you're just starting out, the word market or how do you market your business pops up quite a lot, but there are different ways of marketing your business and not all approaches work with every situation. So hopefully we'll hear a bit more about that. If you're to encapsulate your entire photography journey so far with one or even a few words, a sentence, say, how would you encapsulate it?
This is so intense. It's like one sentence. This is so intense. That's a good one. That's a good one. No, no, I think maybe Yeah, just like I don't know. Like I feel like this is so like it really is so intense to like I have to like narrow it down to like one sentence. Maybe this is something I should be thinking about more, but I feel like it's too like I don't know. I'm just about I feel like just in my life in general, and I guess for my business, it would probably just be about like having fun, doing your own thing, like do what you love, like shoot what you love, like I don't know. Do it for yourself, I guess. Yeah.
All right. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. You don't even think about it. It's fine. I like putting people on the spot as well. So
Yeah, I'm not a good
although I would
writer.
say I do ask that.
I'm not one-liners or not.
Well, that's why ChatGPT was invented, right? to help people who aren't good with words do words and stuff. In fact, I got rumbled. I'm just going to admit this right now because I find it really funny. I do my Instagram posts with the help of ChatGPT because I'm dyslexic and I can't write for shit. Anyway, I got caught out. It was obviously too AI-esque. And yeah, someone commented that the post about me was clearly a robot.
They said it was really well written.
Really well.
But I don't know if that was like a subtle sort of, it's too well
Well, I mean,
written.
you're not
Too
selling
well
your
written.
captions,
They know
you're
me
selling
too well.
your videos. So that's why somebody's booking you.
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
So rude.
I mean,
of that
Greg
person.
even said, so rude of that person. No, Greg was like, people don't even read the captions anymore. And I'm like, why am I putting so much effort into it? Why am I prompting ChatGPT and telling it I'm a... Anyway, don't feel ashamed about using ChatGPT. Go for it, for listeners. I do wonder, though, I posed this question to Greg, and maybe you might know Melody, maybe not. Does Google penalize you for using ChatGPT or other AI software's words that is spewed out on your website? If anyone knows the answer to that, write to me, because then I'll stop using it. Anyway, Melody, do you have any book recommendations for our listeners out there?
I have no book recommendations, sadly.
No books.
No,
She doesn't read.
like, honestly, no, I do not read. I do listen to podcasts though regularly, and I feel like I've got some good podcasts that I would recommend if you're looking for.
Ooh,
Go for it.
Go for it. I love podcast recommendations. Go.
Yes. So
There's this amazing one by
Perspective.
by Cinemate. It's called Perspective. Sorry.
I love listening to Marketing School.
Marketing school.
Yeah,
Marketing
and you think it'd be
School.
boring. They're like 6-minute long. They're real quick. And it's just like endless tips about
All right.
Ooh.
like they're really quick. And they're to the point. They're not like me and rambles and doesn't have a point. They're definitely more put together.
It's the complete opposite of our podcast.
Yeah, so
Is this by Neil
Yes.
Patel and
Yes.
Eric Shu? Sayu? I don't know how to pronounce that. Anyway, yes. Neil and Eric. Okay, go. Oh, I like the idea of good business advice in the form of little cookies. That's
yeah.
good.
So that's probably
Little ear
that's probably the
cookies.
main thing I listen to. Honestly, yeah, I'm trying to think. The reason how do I know so much about? I think it is through Marketing School. It's probably why I know the most about like the SEO Pinterest stuff. And then just also just doing web and graph design, like just doing like playing around with, I do my own website. So I guess people who outsource their websites, maybe it'd be less like playing around with it and stuff and trying out different things. But if you do have access to your own website, just playing around with it is like really helpful in like your free time. Because then you can do your own market research versus just like waiting for someone's latest thing because it's like constantly changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that's quite cool. It's marketingschool.io for anyone who's interested. Marketing School brings you 10 minutes of actionable marketing advice every single day. Get right get the right tips to take your
You're not
business
supposed to
the
do their
next-
blog. You're supposed to do our outro blurb.
Oh, sorry. If you want wedding chat, you can listen to this completely 180, 2-hour long conversation once a week from us at Perspective by Cinemate. Anyway, sorry, Melody. Thank you for joining us. That brings us to the end of our podcast. So again, you've spent so much time with us. In episode 21, you spent, I don't know, probably an hour and a half, maybe an hour and a half. And now you spent over 2 hours with us today. So thank you for your time. Where can people find you online?
My website is just melodyjoy.co. And then my Instagram is melodyjoyco. No dots. Yeah.
No dots. People can find us at perspectivebycinemate.com. Our Instagram is at perspectivebycinemate. We are Cinemate Films. And are you ready for Thrive? Greg?
I'm ready.
I'm ready as well. Melody, are you ready?
Yeah.
Good. Feel, man. Good. Well, if you're not ready, get ready for the 2-day all-star photography workshop taught by 6 phenomenal mentors. The 18th and 19th of March at the Dunglass Estate. That is the Scotland date. The 21st and 22nd of March at the Hoxton Holborn in London. That is the English date. Thank you to With Jack for sponsoring this episode.
I use them.
If you have loved this episode, you can hit subscribe on our YouTube. Sorry, Melody, what were you saying?
I use them with Jack.
Use them. Yay! Yes, you can hit subscribe on our YouTube at youtube.com/@perspective by Cinemate, or wherever you get your podcasts, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else. Hit the subscribe button, and it would mean the world to us if you could comment or leave a review or just engage with us, because the algorithms are brutal. Anyway, in the meantime.
However, wait, what? However,
it's 2024. We're swapping it around. Do you want to say enjoy your life? You've not said it once.
Enjoy your life.
It's not enjoy your life. It's enjoy your thrive. Enjoy your thrive.